All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence and managing your emotions for success. Now, you may have heard the term emotional intelligence, and to be honest, it encompasses so many different broad topics in areas such as self-confidence, self-esteem, etc., etc. However, what I believe is perhaps the most important facet of emotional intelligence and what it can be boiled down to is self-awareness. Self-awareness in that you understand your own emotions, what it is that you're experiencing, and self-awareness in that you understand how you convey yourself to others, how you're perceived, how you're interacting with other people. And this is known as emotional intelligence or emotional IQ. Now, at school, we're taught a lot about IQ, just traditional, normal intelligence, right? Such as developing knowledge, memorizing facts, all these type of things. But there's little or no thought given to emotional intelligence. And arguably, emotional intelligence is perhaps the cornerstone of everything that you do in life, and it will make or break your relationships especially. And when it boils down to it, the War Room at its heart is a networking organization. That means you're going to interact with other human beings. And if you want to be successful inside the organization, and if you want to really make the most of it, and then in my opinion, perhaps the most important factor and the most beneficial factor of the War Room is be able to network and interact with other individuals, because you are the product of your environment and the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Therefore, it's very, very important that you learn how to develop these social skills to increase your EQ, emotional IQ, in order to progress in life and especially inside the War Room. So let's talk about that a little bit, and let's talk about the 2 aspects of self-awareness, both the internal and the external. So the internal aspect of self-awareness is knowing how you're feeling from moment to moment. So that doesn't necessarily mean like you're getting up in your feelings and all this kind of stuff or lovey-dovey. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like, how are you feeling? Like, am I feeling angry? Am I upset? Am I feeling this? Am I feeling that? And if you don't have a level of self-awareness to determine that, this is going to lead to things like emotional outbursts. It's going to negatively impact or affect your relationships. It's going to mean that you're going to send that message on Telegram without even thinking about it, these type of things. But if you take a few moments to think about how you're feeling and kind of put it to one side, then it's not going to even damage your relationships. I've known people that have gotten kicked out of the War Room, for example, because they weren't able to manage their emotions. They weren't aware of how their emotions were affecting them. So what are some simple ways that you can develop that internal self-awareness of managing your own emotions? I think there's a couple of very, very simple ways. The first one is just to simply start doing things that put you outside your comfort zone. And martial arts, especially, speaking from experience doing boxing, was one of the best ways that I found to develop my emotional intelligence or emotional awareness. Because in boxing, if you get too angry, if you get too upset, you're going to get knocked out, you're going to get punched in the face, right? So boxing, in my opinion, is a fantastic way to learn how to be aware of your emotions and be able to control them in order that they don't get the best of you. Because if you can't control them and they do get the best of you, that's when things go badly very quickly inside the ring. But boxing, of course, is not the only way to have a deeper internal awareness of how your emotions work. Meditation is also another way. Meditation can be as simple as 1 or 2 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be this big thing where you sit and meditate for 20 or 30 minutes and do this thing where you like sit on a yoga mat and do meditations. It's not like that. In my opinion, the purpose of meditation is to be aware of your thoughts and feelings and just observe them. That's the whole point, to observe. Because if you can't observe something, you're not aware of it, right? So developing that skill to observe how you're feeling, what you're thinking is critically important when it comes to emotional intelligence. And I'll explain in a moment why that's important in order to help you develop relationships with other people. But meditation is not the only way, of course, as well. And then we've got things, you can also spend time in nature, spending time in silence. It doesn't have to be a specific prescription like a meditation. Any time that you can get away from your phone, your laptop, and just be out with your own thoughts and just observe your own thoughts and feelings is a fantastic way, because introspection is a very important part of understanding yourself. And if you don't understand yourself, then therefore you can't understand other people as well. And so let's talk about the other aspect of self-awareness, which is the external aspect, which is how you portray yourself to other people. A lot of people that come into the War Room don't have a very high level of self-awareness. And so what happens is this messes up their interactions with other people because they're not aware of how they're being around other people. So maybe they might be too over familiar with someone who's not already their friend, and they're assuming a type of friendship. It's not gone into the organic friendship stage. Or maybe they're asking a few weird questions, or they're interacting in a very awkward manner around other people, and that makes other people not want to hang around with them. These very small, subtle social cues will make or break your relationships. And if you're not aware of how you portray yourself or how you convey yourself to other people, maybe your tonality of your voice, the questions that you ask, the body language, the way that you dress, it's incredible how many people overlook these very subtle but important cues because they are the basis of strong relationships. And ultimately, the War Room, as a networking organization, it's all about developing strong relationships. And if you don't have a level of self-awareness or emotional intelligence in order to interact with other people and have fruitful, productive interactions with other people, you're not going to get good, solid friendships, lasting friendships, which is probably part of why you're in this organization. And you won't get the other benefits of it either. So I can say that the people who I've met in the war room who've been the most successful are also the people with the highest level of emotional intelligence, because they know how to interact with other people. They know how to read the room. They know when they shouldn't be too overly familiar. They know when the conversation is finished. All of these small, minor things. Now, if you're watching this and you don't really know what I'm talking about, or you have no understanding, it doesn't make sense to you, then I would suggest that perhaps you need to go out there and practice your social interactions, social skills, being around more people on a regular basis. Because it's one thing to sit behind a laptop and be very successful, press a few buttons and be successful in crypto or online business, for example. But if you're a recluse and you spend all day behind your laptop, you don't interact with other people, then your social skills will be sorely lacking, and they will show up when it comes to going to events, when it comes to interacting with other people, developing friendships and networking. Now, that's not to say that you have to be the polished article and you have to be perfect and you have to be like Andrew or Tristan Tate. Of course not. You can still be your own person, but there's still a lot that you can do in order to develop those social skills that are going to pay off so handsomely later on down the line. So as I said, it's part of the process is one, knowing how your emotions affect yourself and your interactions. And the way to do that is to observe them. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you're going to be tested on a regular basis. Boxing, martial arts are great examples. Sitting in quiet time on a regular basis and observing your thoughts and feelings. And then start to be aware of how you're conveying yourself, not in a very self-conscious way, but just in an aware way. Like, okay, how am I talking to this person? Like, what's my body language like? How am I interacting? How's this person going to perceive me? Now, as I said, you don't want to do it to the point that it becomes too self-conscious and that you're really nervous. Start to practice it in a very simple way. And then eventually it becomes more natural and you become more used to it, a way of life. And I guarantee you, developing your emotional intelligence, learning to interact with people, understanding your own emotions and how they impact you and your world is going to pay dividends for you, not only in the war room, but in your life in general.